The other team in the East in this category is Michigan State. And the reason we put them in this category isn't necessarily because what we're projecting Michigan State to do, but rather the two teams that will be below them. And we'll get to them in just a minute. Michigan State, boy, last year could not have been more disappointing for them, right? Mel Tucker is vibing. Sparty is in a good place, or at least it feels like okay, we can move towards being elite, right? They're not that far removed from the Fiesta Bowl win over Pitt, and then you lose four straight and 5 of 6, and falling to Indiana and Penn State to finish the season, and all of a sudden it's a whole heap and pile of mess, and you have guys getting arrested for a brawl against Michigan and kicked off the team. And then, oh, by the way, guys, Peyton Thorne and Keon Coleman bail on the program post spring ball. They enter the transfer portal. Peyton Thorne's now down on the plains at Auburn. Keon Coleman is going to go win a national title at Florida State. And things are not groovy in East Lansing. Really, the star here is going to be Noah Kim. Should win the quarterback job. A player who our transfer portal CFB teammates are really, really high on. He's a good dual threat. Has good legs, cannon of an arm. Jalen Berger, who transferred from Wisconsin last season, should have another good season. I think Nathan Carter coming over, a UConn transfer, gives him a really solid 1-2 punch. The problem is at wide receiver and pass catching options, you're limited, right? Trey Mosley is really the only guy that catches your attention. He had 35 catches last season. Antonio Gates Jr. is on the team. That should be fun, but no one that's going to replace Keon Coleman, right? The defense, a solid run defense, and should be able to get some pressure on the quarterback. Simeon Barrow Jr., one of the best defensive tackles in the country, comes back. You add to Miche Adelaide from Texas A&M on the edge. So they've got some talented pieces. Linebackers are going to be fun as well. Cal Halliday, Jacoby Windman are veteran playmakers. But as is a theme here in the Big Ten, the secondary is a sore spot for this team. They went from dead last in pass defense in 2021 to 87th last year, but they still gave up a ton of yards, didn't force many turnovers, and they just don't have kind of those brand names that I'm expecting to step up. Now, Charles Brantley is a guy that is probably more of a household name, but that unit's going to go through trial by fire, I think. Plus, guys, that schedule, as I pull up Michigan State's schedule, it's not fun. It's not conducive. Central Michigan, Richmond should be easy wins, but then you have Washington and Maryland that come to town. You play Iowa all before a bye week. I have a hard time feeling like you get any of those games, especially if Washington is as good as we're expecting them to be in the Pac-12. You play Michigan at home. You go to Minnesota. You go to Ohio State, and then you host Penn State. It's just a brutal schedule, as it is for Michigan State every year because they're in the East, right? So they're always going to catch Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in some order. But for me, this is another rebuilding season. I think they're a cut above what you're going to see from Rutgers and from Indiana. And so that's why they're in this middle tier. But for me, I think you've got a number of young pieces that are in town. Mel Tucker's trying to replenish the well with recruiting pitches. But that $95 million extension is really looking like a tough move for Sparty right now.
Gracious, how